I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey everyone, happy Tuesday and welcome back to the News du Jour. I appreciate everyone's patience. I feel like third trimester has not been the easiest for me. Actually, it's been the hardest of all the trimesters for me personally, and that is compounding health issues adding up to making me pretty sick. But I'm doing my best to keep up with work and everything that I had planned for this time. That said, I'm thinking that next week there may be a break as I'm going to be out of town, and that combined with not doing so well right now medically, I will keep you guys posted. I'm also going to be announcing the official game plan for my maternity leave soon, which will be really exciting because I will not be taking a break. I have a ton of content planned for you guys to go live automatically while I am enjoying my newborn baby. So there's a lot of, kind of updates to stay tuned for. And I really just wanted to say once again that I so appreciate you listening here to News du Jour and being patient through this crazy time where, I don't have a ton of support in terms of a big podcasting team or anything like that, or a co-host to help pick up slack. It's just me. So my assistant is doing her best. She is helping so much, and she is definitely going to keep the trains running on time while I'm out. But she's a part-time assistant and she lives elsewhere, so there's only so much she can do, and we're working on it together. But again, appreciate your patience. So first up for today, we're going to be discussing the Grammys. So as promised, we'll kick off today's episode with a recap of the 2022 Grammy Awards. Let's get it. So it seems that Olivia Rodrigo, unsurprisingly, was the belle of the ball and won the coveted Best New Artist Award. Pretty uncontested there. John Baptiste also cleaned up wearing this gorgeous sort of cape with all these rhinestones. I posted on our Instagram stories sort of how they made it. It was so cool. And definitely like one of those men's fashion moments that is just jaw dropping. And I feel like those are few and far between. So I loved this look. He took home 5 Grammy Awards though, after being nominated for 11. So he also performed his song Freedom. So he truly cleaned up at the Grammys. Joni Mitchell also made a rare appearance at the Grammys on stage to introduce Brandi Carlile. So that was exciting. I believe she had an aneurysm at least 5 years ago, I think 2015. So she hasn't really been very public since then for understandable reasons. Lady Gaga was also seen jumping up from her seat to help fix SZA's train when Lady Gaga had also been nominated for the same award that SZA was in the process of walking up to receive. So it was definitely a classic hashtag women supporting women kind of moment. So loved that. They also played a pre-recorded message from President Zelensky of Ukraine at the Grammys in order to help keep the focus on the bigger picture of ongoing events with the war. So those were some of the biggest moments. Luckily, no one slapped anyone else on stage, so that was good. And next up, we unfortunately have a more serious story to report. There was a mass shooting in Sacramento. So the largest mass shooting in Sacramento history took place early Sunday morning with at least 6 people killed and 12 people wounded. This happened shortly after the bars and clubs closed down at about 2 a.m. There had been a downtown concert that night, and authorities actually do believe this violence to have been gang-related. And it involved at least 6 active shooters. So very, chaotic moment. At least one of the firearms that they recovered had been stolen. The chief of police described the incidents as having a very complex crime scene, which with 6 active shooters, that makes sense. Our thoughts go out to all those affected and wishing everyone who's injured right now a speedy recovery. And next up, we are going to sort of touch on Ukraine. So there isn't much to report on out of Ukraine today, other than the international community growing increasingly outraged by the imagery that we're seeing from Bucha. If you don't know anything about that, definitely, I really strongly encourage you to go back and listen to yesterday's episode as it is such an important and tragic turn of events and update to this war. Parts of Europe are now proposing blocking all oil and gas coming out of Russia, which is like a very drastic thing to do just because they depend on that oil and gas, and it would certainly affect their economies and things like that. But that's the point that they're getting to with all of this. And some are even saying now is the time to really consider getting involved in this conflict due to the utter atrocities that we're seeing, And just as a content warning here before we dive into some of this is really graphic. So if you want to skip ahead, now's the time. But we're seeing things like corpses of civilians bearing signs of torture, bodies concealed in barrels, in basements, and more. People who were bound being lit on fire. The war crimes are just getting completely out of hand. The Russian government is dismissing all of the allegations against him as staged propaganda. And what's scary to me personally, thinking about all of this, I've been so affected by this, especially being pregnant with hormones raging. It's just, I cry at the drop of a hat these days anyway. And so this has just been really tough to process all the news. But what scares me about it is that we don't know where else this might be happening in Ukraine, because the thing is, we didn't know this was happening in Bucha because it was largely occupied by these Russian forces, and we didn't know it was happening until they left to head towards the Donbass. Ukrainians were then able to go in and kind of survey the damage, and this is when they discovered bound human beings had been set on fire, civilians. A children's hospital basement was used as a torture chamber for 5 Ukrainian men. Where else in Ukraine might this be happening? It could be a lot of places. And this should hurt all of us. And we cannot look away right now. What if these were our men, our women, our children, our neighbors, our friends, our families? We cannot turn a blind eye to their pain, as we would not want someone to do that to us if it were our homes burning or our house or our husbands dying. It's time to sit up, pay attention, and demand more to be done to stop this violence. And that is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "We are all born beautiful. The tragedy is being convinced that we're not." If you enjoyed this episode, please consider becoming a patron of our podcast. For $7.99 a month, you can unlock tons of perks like breaking news text messages so that you're never out of the loop. Tons of bonus episodes are already up there ready for you to binge, and a discussion board full of networking opportunities and much more. Go to www.patreon.com/sugarfree media today to become a patron. This is the best way to support our show. Our patrons make News du Jour possible. But a couple other ways to support our podcast are rate and review on whatever podcast platform you use to listen, share on your social media, you have influence, tell your friends, family, and colleagues that you love News du Jour and why you listen. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram, just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok, and sugarfree_media on Twitter. We also have a weekend newsletter called Dreamers Digest that's full of dreamy content recommendations for your weekend and a life update from yours truly. Sign up today on our website, www.sugarfreemedia.co. Our music is by Joey Lavoie and Nicholas Foster. Our cover art is by Hannah Pierce Photography. Our Sugar Free Media logo is by Catherine Jezik Designs. Any twinkling or little footsteps you might hear in the background are by my dog, Rhett. He's a rescue pup and always records with me. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.